morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your breakfast bankroll / midday market report for Friday, August 5th, 2022. Yes, the weekend is here. Yes, there was an NFL game last night. And I kept saying to anyone that wanted to listen, why won't that number get off 30 and a hook? The actual number, -1 Raiders, was the opening number in 33 and a half. So again, basic math, 17, 16, 20, 14, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But what I said was earlier yesterday was, 17, 16, first and goal from the 3, and, last play of the game. But they did make you watch it up until the last couple minutes at least. So anyone, the whole world was on the under, opened at 33 and a half, closed at 30, and it goes over, and the Raiders go box to wire. And of course, Action Network has nothing better to do than put out that someone bet $55,000 on the Raiders -1 in March. God bless you. You got $55,000 just laying around for someone to hold for months, then God bless you. ECSI VIPs, I kept eyeing Scott all show last night. There was one game I wanted to break down. And if I stuck to my guns, I have a 3-0 day. And I don't like to go all in on one game, but the initial thought was Rays first 5 minus the hook. Rays full game minus the 1.5 was plus like 117, 120 or something like that. And the Rays team total over 4.5. And it was more against a Hutchinson fade than anything else. They got to 6. They won 6-2. I sprinkled the infield. We got the Rays team total over. We had the Phillies team total over 5.5 plus 115. They got 4 runs, and then the rain came, and they called the game. 5-4 Phillies win, top 5. That was it. Game over. So that bet is voided. But the fact is, I would have taken my shot at, 4 innings after an hour and a half, 2-hour rain delay. The Phillies would have found one way to score 1 run somehow, some way. So should have been 2-0 there. And then the Red Sox. This is just, Scotty talks about all the time that he's been in the dugouts. He plays. He knows what the hell's going on. I've coached from T-ball all the way up through Legion to college baseball. And MLB 101. You cannot walk the leadoff guy. You can't. I'd rather have him hit a scorcher up the middle, infield at one. Leadoff walks turn into runs. It's just MLB 101. Period. Simple. Sox score 2 in the first. Miraculously, KC scores 2 in the first. Royals take a 3-2 lead in the 5th, of course. And then Sox tie it, so we got a ball game. Well, bottom of the 7th, leadoff walk. 6 or 7, I think it was 7. And, of course, Salvi to the rescue. Royals take the lead, and then Salvi to the rescue. The next inning, leadoff walk. Salvi goes yard, 7-3. Thanks for playing. The real question on social media and to the locals, where was Whitlock? Where was Houck? D. Hernandez came and blew up like a wood tip. He didn't get it out. So we had Sox money line, Sox run line. So 1, 2, and 1 yesterday. It is what it is. So full slate of MLB. Our initial plan, honestly, guys, was to have an earlier show where we were going to have Scotty talk some football, whether it was NFL, NCAF, and we were going to do a light breakdown of the MLB. Always unscripted here. So I'm going to basically flip this to Scotty, see if he wants to just talk some football. Does he want to talk some baseball? We have a show at 2:30, and our intention was to do a closing bell. So I haven't talked to Scotty today. We had some studio issues as well. Daughter's cat came and tried to get a spider. It would have been great if this was live. took down the green screen, crash, bang, boom, up to the ceiling, swipe at the damn spider. Couple crash, bang, booms with teacups and saucers, but we're back. So without further ado, let's bring him in from the Palm Tree State himself, the one, the only, beam him up, Scotty Webb.
Jeff, how are you? Sounds like an eventful day with the cats and the spiders and, all the stuff that goes on. And, we had a football game last night. So I played it two ways. I played full game Raiders on the money line, and then I played first half -1.
Well, I think that the topic, honestly, was no one was playing, yet Josh Jacobs is out there, and the people started to ask, is McDaniel showcasing Jacobs? What the hell are you doing out there?
Listen, so watching the game a little bit and, listening to everybody talk about the game after and all this stuff, everybody's going to be high on the Raiders now. I mean, come on. Don't base anything on what you see in preseason football. Nothing. Zero. These are misleading games in reference to handicapping football games for when they count. So no matter what it is you see, no matter how good somebody looks or how great a defense looks, that's not the time to buy in. The time to buy in is, if the first couple of games of the season, not them, because that's going to be a problem. So as you go through and you're doing these handicaps and so forth for major or NFL football, just know that motivations and quarterback rotations and things like that are more important than actual X's and O's, because there's no game planning in these games. They're organized scrimmages, and that's what they are. So think of them that way. It's almost like when they practice each other for the week, and they go out and say, "Oh, I'm going to practice this team instead of bang up the guys all the time." It's almost like that.
Well, I have to say this, and I'm not going to throw out any names. I do my work one way, you do your work the other way, and what makes us so special is, again, that we usually come to, or when we do, we come to the same conclusion. But it's based on numbers. It's based on actual resources, whether it's the Webby's odds or the market odds, or however we do it with all your abbreviations in MLB and football, time of possession, yada, yada, yada. I tell you guys that when football comes, the space gets even more crowded and it's even more bigger of a cesspool. I think in football, everyone has their go-tos, and it is what it is. I was talking this morning with one of our colleagues, and back in the day in your other office, there used to be a magazine rack where we had all our, he was talking about his Street and Smiths, and the Phil Steels, the Lindsays, and the Athlons and all that, whatever you guys do, now the Sharp Report. Again, now everyone wants to do it digitally because they don't want to spend the money for the book. I'm a guy that loves to hold on to something. I can highlight it. I can do whatever. But I just have to put this out on record, Scott. When one of our colleagues, who's a big, big name in these lanes, with the check mark, with the probably one of the biggest platforms going right now, comes out and states, I am taking the Minnesota Vikings plus 275, not because there's Mike Zimmer has left the building, not because there's a new head coach and a new OC, not because Justin Jefferson's one of the best wide receivers in the game, not because their defense is going to be a lot better, not because Devontae Adams has left the building, but the fact that I don't think Rodgers cares. I repeat that. I am taking the Vikings because I don't think Aaron Rodgers cares.
I made a comment yesterday on our show that it's very difficult to start handicapping the intentions of players and what they believe, what they don't believe, what they want, what they don't want, all that stuff. Because I'm just going to tell you, you can sit there and say he's a Fruit Loop all you want. Um, he doesn't even have to care. He really doesn't. He doesn't have to care to be able to run around and throw the football. He already knows the playbook. He already knows the opponents. He's been in the league a long time. Motivation is one thing to play well. And you've seen him when he doesn't play well, his trips to the West Coast, he gets smashed and, they didn't do well. But he always follows up with the good games. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, blue check marks, whatever. They've been around a while, so blue check marks can sit here and go, okay, I've got intuition with this, and I follow my intuition, and that's one of the things you should do to a degree when you're doing these things. But I will definitely say this. To solely base a bet on that's wrong. That's not correct. That's not how it's done. Now, if there's just the caveat to making the statement to get clicks, okay, I get that. But but you've done your homework and you did some other things to support it, okay, well that's a lot better. But it's not. That's not right. So those of you trying to follow blue check marks, they understand that sometimes they do stuff and say things just because they're blue check marks and they get clicks.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. For the locals, I'm about less than an hour, 45 minutes from Gillette, and they're running through their practices. And I, have a lot of colleagues that are at the practices. I get some inside information on a daily basis. I follow the locals from 2 to 6 on on TV, Felger, Maz, yada, 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 Bedard. And, there's trouble here. How much trouble is going on in Patriots camp? They have to dummy down in offense. They are taking steps back from the basics. That's how much they just can't get it done. Now, I have said from Jump Street that Bill doesn't give a rat's ass about the wins and losses in the preseason. And they're a team that usually starts slow and builds up momentum and then usually get that bye week. And, they'll start, 1-3, 2-4. And the next thing you know, they've rattled 6 or 8 off in a row. And here come the Patriots. That was their recipe for success. I am telling you right now, they can't get anything right now. And I'm not putting a fork in them. I had months ago the Jets finishing in front of them. I haven't gone on, we're going to do something in the next week or two on our, breakdown on the conferences and divisions, yada, yada, yada. But I take that piece there. It has some substance. They are struggling. And there's some teams that are going to get it together. And you talked about it, Scott. These teams, when let's say the Patriots are playing Detroit, and Detroit comes into Foxborough on Monday, they practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That is more beneficial. They get more done both sides too. They could give a rat's ass about the actual game. They got more on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday practicing against themselves than they do on game day, on preseason.
Yeah, it's easier. It's easier to practice that way and get more out of it than it is to beat up your own guys a little bit. And then when the actual game comes along, it's not game plan to go attack a team. It's let me just put my guys out there and see what they can do, and let's work on this. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see what this player can do in these situations. And it's organized scrimmages. That's what they are. But betting them has value dependent upon what you see. Yesterday, I thought the value was in the fact that the quarterbacks for the Jaguars were not going to be regular everyday NFL quarterbacks. And I thought that the Raiders had a significant edge at quarterback because they had guys that had played in the league and had started in the league. And then I thought at the same time that the depth of the Raiders offense, or the depth of the Raiders team, not that they're better, but that they had guys that have been there, and Jacksonville has a lot of guys that hadn't. So I just thought there was a little bit of an edge that way. In both coaches, whatever. I thought the coach for the Raiders did exactly what he was going to do. He's going to be an offensive guy. He kind of threw the ball around a little bit to begin with to start the game, and but they're going to sit here and go, well, boy, the offensive line looked really good for the Raiders yesterday. Okay, well, shit, what does that mean? They'll go out there next week and get whatever. But keep in mind, they also had 5 sacks. So whatever, it doesn't matter. Nothing of this matters. Just like preseason baseball. It's the same thing. Who was the home run leader in preseason baseball this year? Come on, you should know it right off the top of your head, right? Come on, man. That's the way these things work.
I'm gonna just flip the script to you. Would you like to talk some football, some odds?
Yeah, I thought what I would do is instead of sitting here and okay, let's go over the Giants, or let's go over, because that's what people are doing. What I thought I might do is share a couple of things. So number one, the one thing that I'm going to share that I think when you handicap these teams and you look at the teams going into the new season, and even during this season, I shouldn't say number one, but it's way up there. It's way more significant than what people give it value to. Is you need to understand the value of a win in the NFL. And what I mean by that is say, and I don't have a schedule in front of me, but let's just say, I don't know, that the Bengals are playing the Falcons in game 1. I know they're not, but let's just say they are. And the Bengals go win that game. So now you're going to say, okay, they're 1-0, the other team's 0-1. That kind of follows up with what I'm doing. But it is an absolute mandatory must understand strength of schedule and who your opponent is. Because there's 2 things here. Number one, most people use data points, yards per game rushing and yards per game passing and, things like that to get a total yards. And, you gave up this many sacks and you did this and you did that. But if you don't skew that towards the idea that you just played the worst team in the NFL, then you're running yourself into a problem of overvaluing one team. And you can do that a lot. So you have to understand that the strength of schedule of who you played, what your opponent was, whether it was a win or a loss, those things matter. The second part of that is you shouldn't really be using data points that are like yards per game. You should be doing things on a per carry basis or a per attempt basis or something like that, because they mean more. So say you're ahead 30-7, and all you're doing is running the ball to run out the clock. What does that mean? The one team's worse on defense versus the run, and the other team's better on offense versus rushing the football? No, it doesn't mean that at all. What it means is that the game situation played out to a point in which those things made the numbers skewed. If you're not doing those things, you need to start, because I got to tell you that's the biggest mistake a lot of people make, is they get in the lanes and they think they can handicap these games, and then they start handicapping static numbers. You want numbers that mean something, that you don't want numbers that don't. Another thing that I'm going to tell you in regards to this is, if you're not analyzing, what do they call it? They call it adjusted games lost, then you're in big trouble, because that's going to point you in the right direction, especially early in the season. So what is adjusted games lost? That's injuries from the year before. So if you look at that from that perspective, you know why everybody's so high on Baltimore? It's not because Baltimore is any good. Baltimore is, I would tell you, a slightly above average team, but they played so bad last year because they had 191.2 adjusted games lost based off of injuries. That's the worst number since these numbers have been recorded ever. They lost. So the next closest team was the Jets with 158, and then Detroit Lions, and then you can go down the line. But the teams that are the healthiest, listen to this: Kansas City and Buffalo. The Rams are 1, 2, 3. The Rams are 5th. The Bengals are 7th. So you must understand that teams that are healthy are going to win football games. Teams that are not healthy lose football games. And there's big reasons for that because depth in the NFL is not so much the same as it is in other sports because of the way the salary caps work. So having said those things, expect Baltimore to be a better football team this year. And the cycle typically runs where if you've got healthy one season, you're not as much healthy the next. You're gonna have a little bit of that in the way that the NFL works. You've seen it all the time. People get hurt every week. So if you got unscathed, where Kansas City and Buffalo are, you got to figure out, okay, well, Kansas City and Buffalo, they're going to get scathed this year, and they need to figure out a little bit about, maybe some of these guys come in and can do the job or hold them over, or just depending upon who those particular injuries fall to. So those are some significant points I wanted to bring out. Now, here's how football has changed in terms of advanced metrics today. Every single line of scrimmage, every yard, I shouldn't say line of scrimmage, that's the wrong word. Every single yard line has a value, and it's a permanent value. But as it changes, moving closer and closer to the goal line, it has more and more value. So the goal of an offense, obviously, is to move the ball down the field to score. So statistics need to match that. So that's what they've done. And similarly, defenses get graded on the ability to stop those things. Now, what people don't realize is that it is super significant to have a team stop another one and kick field goals or to keep them out of range. So we all know that, but what you don't realize is this. Let me phrase it this way. So if a team is a good offense and they go down and are playing a poor defense and they just you expect them to kind of go through them a little bit, or if you have a good defense, you're going to stop a poor offense. But what if you have a good offense versus a good defense? And you sit there and you kind of battle back and forth over these line yardage markers on the field. What I mean by yardage markers is 48-yard line or 47-yard line or 46-yard line. Let me just tell you that you can have the best offense in football, and they can be going against the worst defense in football. But if on every kickoff and or every punt, the worst defense gains an edge of 5 yards every single time, that makes up the difference in that bad offense. So yards on the field are extremely important, but knowing where the yards on the field came from are significant. So having said some of that stuff, when you start to analyze football games, understand it starts with the quarterback, right? It's a quarterback-driven league. And it's not the running backs or the offensive line next. It's the wide receivers and it's the receiving. Because that's just the way it works. It's 4 parts offense, 3 parts defense, and 1 part special teams. That's kind of how it works. So offense is more important than defense. and defense is more important than special teams. But of all the players, there's nobody more important than the quarterback. And then you have the wide receivers, receiving crews. Tight ends are included in that, obviously. Running backs out of the backfield are included in that. And then you want to look at the offensive line. But there's misnomers about that too. So, like, the offensive line has a lot to do with running backs and yardage gained running the football, but not as much as you might think. There's running backs who are inconsistent, meaning that they're going to run up the middle, get stuffed, and then they run for 15 yards. Well, the problem with that is that 15-yard gain skews their numbers, right? Because if you had a guy that just runs the ball at the middle and gets 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, you're going to get a first down. If you get the guy that runs up the middle and he gets stuffed, he pops one for 15, you're punting more often than you are gaining yards. So it's important to have an understanding of how teams move the ball. And then lastly, on this offensive line stuff, quarterbacks have more relation to sacks than the offensive line. I know that's going to sound most retarded thing I ever said, but it's true. Quarterbacks who hold on to the ball too long, can't make a decision, put themselves in trouble, and that's the reflection of the offensive line statistics. And that's just wrong. But on the vice versa of that, a quarterback that can move around a little bit, and I'm not talking about scramble. I mean, I'm just talking about move around in the pocket. That guy can help an offensive line. So there's a lot of different variables when you're handicapping these games. But if you just kind of follow the flow of the game and understand where the ball is on the field, I think you're going to get a better understanding of how to analyze football teams. And you have to understand that you got to have on defense, if you want to be the best, you got to have the best pass defense. You have to have the best pass defense, not run defense, pass defense. And then after you have the best pass defense, you got to put pressure on the quarterback. And if you have a good defense, that means, or run defense, that means when you're winning the game, you can put yourself into a spot where you can win, meaning that the other team is not going to be able to say run out the clock on you because you can stop them from running. And that's how you do it nowadays, right? If you pass to win the game, to score the points, you run to ice the other team and hold the ball away from them. And if you have a defense that can take the ball away because they can stop the run, your defense, it's kind of like having a bad closer. Your guy on your team on defense has a good spot at the end. So all of these things add up to a couple of things. You want to look at strength of schedule. So the Giants this year, the Eagles this year, the Colts, the Bears, I'm kind of looking at right here, the Lions, the Redskins, the Washington Commanders, those teams have the best schedules. And the teams that have the worst schedules, Kansas City, the Rams, the Raiders, the Steelers, Houston, the Bengals. Those are teams that are going to have an uphill fight. It's not fair, but that's because of what they did last year and where they came out. And then when it comes to the injury people, you got Baltimore, the Jets, Detroit, San Francisco, Denver, the Giants, all on the list. They're going to be improved because they get their players back. So when you start combining some of that stuff and you go, oh, look, the Giants have the easiest schedule in all of football, and they're in the bottom of the league in terms of injuries, they're going to be better. Now, does that mean they're going to be better enough that they cover the numbers and all the stuff that are out there? Well, you got to figure that out. But it does put you in the direction you need to go. And the same for Baltimore, right? So Baltimore, they have the 11th easiest schedule out of the 32 teams. And they're the worst team by far in injuries last season. So they're going to be a much improved team. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're a great football team. They're just going to be better than they were a year before, and they'll produce better, and you can rely on them more. I don't know if that kind of helps a little, Jeff, but I wanted to kind of, say, hey, look, this is kind of what NFL looks like these days. versus what it has in the past. And, using certain numerical value points is probably not right anymore. You got to do it based off of what they're doing on each play. EPA is the number we should be looking at. And I talked about that, and we went through a lot of those exercises last year with college football. But EPA is exactly what it sounds like. It is a measure based on if you have down and distance of, I don't know, let's just say it's 2nd and 4, and you run for 0 yards, and you're expected to gain a certain number of yards, you get a negative play. And if you get say now it comes up to 3rd down and 4, and you convert, now you got a positive play, and it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, determinant on the yards that you're getting on those EPA numbers. And at the end, it comes out and it says, well, your EPA was that you outproduced what your expected points were supposed to be based on what you did on every single play you ran. And you can't get any better than that in terms of a number that tells you what teams are like. And they do that by person, by player, by team, all of that. So EPA is a big number.
A lot to take in there, sir. But as you said, last year we did break it down, especially in the college. I remember, I think actually a lot of those MAC games that you talked about when we were breaking down football on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games for college there. I'm just looking at the MLB board. We don't have to break it all down. We will have a closing bell today. I'm going to try to get that for 4 o'clock. There is one day game, Scotty, at Wrigley. Cabrera versus Steele. I don't know if you want to break that game down for all the people that are watching and listening.
Well, when I was looking at this game this morning, I couldn't get a true number on who was pitching, and I knew Cabrera was a possibility, but I didn't see him listed, so I didn't list anything on him. What I did was kind of go through it with Steele. Let me pull up my numbers on him. There we go. And boom. So Steele's been one of those off and on guys. He's been when he's really good, he's really good. When he's not, man, he's not. His season numbers: a game score of 49, his last 7's a 49, his last 3's a 47, his last start's a 43. So he's below average pitcher, but not by much. His xFIP Sierra numbers 4.67, 4.52. Which are in the red, so that's not good. But his ERA minus is 59, so that means he's pitching much better than what he's actually being able to, what his metrics look like. His strikeout numbers are pretty bad, 6.75, and he walks guys. So you're going to expect balls to be put in play. You're going to expect guys to be on base. Batting average against is 251, so that's pretty high. League average right now 243. So he's above that. His whip rate's 1.43, so that's not good. But he's playing the Marlins, and the Marlins, the Marlins can't hit. So he's the favorite today. And if you look at what the projections are that the Marlins are going to win more games than and be closer to, say, 500, for example, than what the Cubs are going to be. So that must mean that Steele's a significantly better pitcher than what Cabrera is, and I don't believe that for a minute. Now, having said that, I don't feel comfortable enough in the Marlins. The Marlins batting right now, where is it? There it is. The Marlins are 26th in baseball in terms of offensive performance, batting, that kind of stuff, the statistical batting numbers. But in terms of runs, Jeff, they're 30th in baseball. And the 29th team in baseball, the Chicago Cubs. So you got a team that scored 13 runs in the last 7 days and one that scored 12. And I'll say this. As we come down the stretch of Major League Baseball, we're now into August. So you still got a lot of August. You still got all of September. And the reality is, if you're going to bet bad teams to win, good luck. No, you don't bet bad teams to win. You just don't. Now, if there's certain situations, where you want to kind of dive in there and go, oh, okay, well, this is a special spot. Maybe they called up a kid and he's going to be really good for that day or something, a rookie or something, then that's different. But this is not that case. And you're expecting, it's the Chicago Cubs, who I think are 3-7 or something in their last 10 games, who just are playing just abysmal. They're as bad as the Pirates and the Reds. And you're gonna tell me that that Miami can't go in there and beat them. And it was that number. I think the number is like what, minus 140 or 130 or something.
35, 36, 30 at Westgate, 40 at William Hill. So, I mean, the consensus is around 135. My inside joke all season long with the Cubs and Steele is, is he going to be Steele or is he going to be the aluminum can? And I haven't had the right success either which way. If I took Miami today, Steele would be Steele. If I took the Cubs, he'd be the aluminum can, and the Marlins would be putting up crooked numbers in the first 2-3 innings.
Yeah, well, I mean, that could happen. I mean, that's why I say when you bet on bad teams this time of year, what you're going to run into is inconsistency in performance. When you bet on good teams at this time of year, you should have pretty good consistency of performance. Because they're playing for things and the other ones aren't. It's kind of like, the NFL right now when they're playing preseason games. These games all count. But you just got to kind of figure out what you're doing. And I don't like it. I mean, if I had, of course the number wouldn't be the same, but if you're going to bet the Marlins, Alcantara better be on the mound. That's all I can tell you. Because that's the only time they have a really good chance that they're going to win, because the other team ain't going to score. So it's kind of like that. So I don't have a opinion in a sense of, okay, I just think that if you're looking to bet the Cubs, I don't know why you would. If you're looking to bet the Marlins, wait till they start hitting, if they ever start hitting, or Alcantara's on the mound. Otherwise, you just bet against them all the time. And you can't bet against them when they play each other, for God's sakes.
No, we had Alcantara run line the other night, but we had it with the Marlins team total over 3.5 against Mike Minor. You and I could get 3 at bats, and I can guarantee you one of us would get on base against Mike Minor. They left 2 guys on second with less than 2 outs. They had guys on second and third with 2 outs, and miraculously, the guy on third gets picked off, and they were 3-0.
I can tell you a little bit about the kid who's pitching for Cleveland today, if you want a little bit of information about him. His name is Hunter Gaddis, and I don't care what maybe they fixed it. Nope, they didn't fix it. So on Wager Talks lines there, they got Gaddis listed as a left-handed pitcher. He's not. He's a right-handed pitcher. So understand that, first of all. Second of all, this is his major league debut. He's never pitched in the big leagues before. He's a 5th-round draft pick. But the guy throws some gas. He's a strikeout guy, which is good when you have a team, when you have a guy that comes up that way. He's a strikeout guy. When he was in, I think it was it single A or was it double A? It was A+. So in 2021, he made 19 starts in A+ ball, and he went 4-11. That was his record. So that's not very good. But he had 11.75 strikeouts per 9 innings, and a walk rate of 2.59. That's pretty good. And he's got a decent ground ball rate. So he was probably a little unlucky on those things. But at the same time, you got to put it together. So far this season, in between AA and AAA, he's made 16 starts, and he's averaging 11.75 strikeouts per 9 innings at a more advanced level there. His walk rate has ticked up a little bit, but he made 2 starts in AAA so far. He's pitched 10 innings, 10.8 strikeouts per 9, 2.7 earned run average. That's pretty good. I don't know why they're bringing him up to face the Astros, but and they can hit fastballs. and then the opponent, Valdez on the mound for them. That doesn't bode well for this kid to win his first game. But I expect that anytime, and this happens a lot, anytime you call up a kid like last night, Texas, right? Texas had that kid on the mound last night. Forget what his name is now, but last name begins with R, left-handed kid, against the White Sox and held them in check.
Is it Raggins?
Yeah, Raggins. Yeah. He pitched pretty well. Now he's not a big flamethrower guy. He only throws 92 miles an hour or whatever. But and the White Sox had him in trouble a lot. They just left guys on base all over the place. Of course, I know that because I lost the game. But you say that, and you look at that stuff, and when these guys get called up and they've never been seen before by big league hitters, they tend to have a little bit of success, unless they're just guys that don't throw hard and get beat up and smashed around a little bit. And then the kid for Cleveland or Cincinnati, Duggar, who's pitching today, he made quite a few starts in 2021 for Cincinnati, but he's been more of a bulk guy this year. He's not started any games, and he's played 3 games. He's pitched 12 innings, gave up 15 hits and 6 runs. Or no, not 6 runs, more than 6 runs. He has 17 strikeouts, so he's a strikeout guy too. So it's kind of interesting. So theoretically, you got Cincinnati in a bullpen game today against Lauer. So that kind of gives you a little bit of heads up as to kind of what those guys look like. But Duggar's not a guy that I would expect to pitch more than anywhere from 3 or 4 innings and then turn it over to somebody else.
I just got to close with this. I read an article yesterday. I was pissed off at the Red Sox, obviously, on what they did and how Christian Vasquez was treated. I know it's a business; it happens all the time. And I didn't even bring up that night Odorizzi had been traded, and meanwhile he's sitting in the dugout, and the announcers are going, "Does he know? Does he not know?" He was just like dumbfounded, And I assumed that he had caught wind that he was traded. And the reason I'm talking is about Christian Vasquez. And I don't know if you saw the article or not. I love Christian. He's a dirt dog. Reminds me of a Dustin Pedroia, who, listen, they're not the greatest in the MLB, but if I'm managing and coaching, those are the type of ball players that I want. And so he got a pinch hit that first night, and then he started in the second game. Him and Mancini both started, and Bello came in and he pitched an inning, and then he came back and he started to pitch, and he stopped, and something was out of sync. Vasquez, who now plays for Houston, reached out to Cora. Hey, something's wrong with the kid. Something's wrong with the kid. Get out there. It wasn't the coach. It wasn't the pitching coach from the Red Sox. It was your former catcher that makes noise and says, hey, Cora, something's wrong. And they go out and check. Sure enough, something was wrong. So that's class right there, Scotty.
Well, I say this all the time, and people either believe you or don't believe you, but when you've been inside that, you've been in the game, and you've been around the players, it's like every other thing in life. There's assholes out there. They're just assholes, and they think they're privileged and all of that. But in the baseball world, I will tell you that's far and few between. It really is. Most of those guys, sure, they're professional athletes, so they got a little bit of up or whatever. But they will do anything in the world for you. They will. If you're their buddy and their pal or their friend or whatever, or an acquaintance, I've seen players do things and do promotions and shows and do stuff and then not charge nobody nothing. They just go and they just do it just because they think it's the right thing to do, and they love kids and having people come up to them. And they do a lot of things the right way, and a lot of things that they're taught. And that's what I think baseball is a sport that breeds that a little bit. I thought golf would be a little bit that way, but those guys are way, 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 way out there in terms of prima donna style stuff. They get They get the clubhouses and the premium, everything. And, Major League Baseball players don't necessarily get that. They got to work their ass off to get to where they are because there's so many of them. Not that golfers aren't elite. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they've been privately tutored and privileged a lot longer than what you might think. But anyway, all that said, it doesn't surprise me that a baseball player would do those things, and you would like to think that any professional sport player would do that stuff. But it's like anything else. In the NFL, if you find out somebody's got a hurt ankle or something, you got somebody going out there and put a target on the ankle, and they're going to try to tear it up. So, and I get it, that helps the other team win, but that's not sportsmanship either.
So 2:30, Dan Alexander, Premier Lacrosse. Been off a few weeks with Dan, and we'll get back in. We get a full weekend of lacrosse. Scotty, tentatively, we're going to shoot for 4 o'clock today. We're going to get that closing bell out early. Now, that doesn't mean something doesn't happen here, and it's 4:15. So in that 4:30 range, we'll get the closing bell. Full slate. Some interesting matchups. Nothing alarming off the page. As I said in my intro, when things are going great, you catch every break. It's puppies, cupcakes, and unicorns. And when you're in a rut, nothing goes well, and nothing bigger than kicking the what. We get the Phillies team total voided. Yes, I know we didn't officially cash it. They were on 5. It was 5 and a hook. It was plus money. And they didn't even get their at-bats in the 5th, but the rain washed that out. And again, it wasn't a 50, 60, 70% chance of rain. It's summertime. It literally was about a 26% chance of rain, and rain came enough, and they get the win, and they're happy, and it helps them in the wild card chase. So myself and Scott will be back again around 4:30-ish. We'll make sure we get that out there on the Twitter. But if you do decide to wager this morning, early this afternoon, back east, on that Cubs game, please do it responsibly. If you do have a problem, pick up the phone. There's an 800 number available. Ask for help. Why? Myself and Scotty care. We want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, through 2022 and beyond. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one and only Scotty Beam 'em Up Webb at Webby20 MLB. We wish everyone a blessed morning, afternoon, and we're going to see you real soon. So stay put.